I'm sitting here with Bragi Sigurdsson. Make sure I say that correctly. I've known Bragi for a really long time, and we were having lunch yesterday, and we were talking about the business and the market. Collaboration is, a big part of this, and we were discussing, the relevancies of investment advice for our clients and condos, and what really right now is a lot of attention is turning towards opportunity in the condo market, where you should focus your attention and what's actually important in terms of how you measure quality and how you measure a good investment. So, Bragi, first of all, thank you for agreeing for this video interview for one of our continued video blogs. Yeah. And we're sitting here in the Penthouse, this beautiful 11,000 plus square foot penthouse, one level, which is the biggest one level penthouse that's existed in Miami today. It's absolutely breathtaking, and at the end of this video you're going to see a tour around the apartment, and it's going to show it in its splendor, including what can only be described as just an incredible 3,000 square foot master suite area, which is blows my mind, bigger than my first house. So Bragi, talking as we were yesterday about the important on investments, you mentioned to me, and it really got my attention, about recognizing the line importance. Can you kind of extrapolate on that a little bit?
Yeah, so basically, I'll give you a little background on myself. So when I came to Miami in 2000, I didn't have any idea how I was gonna have any value to anyone. So I kind of kept that focus of figuring out things and trying to understand the market and trying to understand how things progress, why value gets created, or what drives the market in certain ways. So the point I was making to you was more about trying to understand that we're always looking at a limited amount of things. The idea that we have a mass of things when it comes to real estate is really not a real, because there's a criteria you're following, there's some way to try and understand things that you're following, and then you start breaking things down. So, as I told you, I think the fundamental thing for people when they start looking at, they're looking at investment, but obviously most cases they also want to use it. They will gravitate to the best locations and best areas to be in, and ultimately the best buildings to be in, and then it becomes a question of, evaluating the buildings by themselves and then the lines in the buildings, because basically every building is going to have a prime line or primary line to be in. And obviously, the best units in each building is usually the penthouse or something that's more dramatic and bigger. Like this. Like this. So the idea is, I always say, buy the best thing you can afford. So if you're in a market where you can afford to buy penthouses and you can get them at good prices, that's where you should be. Because those are ideally the most rare, the most unique, and most likely to become worth a lot more when the space is right, as we call it, and the positivity, the bullishness of the market is the highest. Those trade for the most money because they're perceived so unique and so rare.
Yeah, the supply-demand ratio, and it's funny because we've seen so much product over the years. You've seen more than me, so you can attest to this, that we deal with a lot of these situations where we think there's lots and lots of really great product out there because we have such a big market and there's so many properties for sale. And if you look on the MLS, you've got thousands and thousands of things as options, and you think, well, there must be lots of choice. But when you get up to the higher end, when you get to the luxury end, which is what we deal in, it really actually becomes very, very limiting. And it often becomes really, really hard to find really great product. We think we're going to have dozens of choices, but when we break it down and we start to dissect, it really starts to become like a handful.
The idea is that when you have a sense of what you do, when you're out in the marketplace, you really are looking for special things. You're looking for something that's unique and it's going to stand the test of time. It's going to be something that's worth a lot just for that reason over time. yeah, you're going to have very few choices. There's not going to be a lot of things that are guaranteed to be that way.
And more unique, because the generic stuff, just as we know right now, it's getting crushed. I mean, if you have, you know, we were talking over lunch and I was referencing the iPhone. I know my iPhone, it's the same as Braggy's, and I know that in 6 months there'll be another one out, and then it just won't be worth anything. So anything that's kind of generic and get replicated, that ultimately suffers, you know, the highs and lows of the market. And it's the unique product, the one-offs, those special lines where you can't see you know, replication so easily, that stands up, and that obviously, you know, you get oscillations of value as markets go up and down, but long term, those, you know, that trajectory is an upward movement. And, you know, if you have something that is very generic, very, you know, small and modular, like you get a lot of these properties around, you find yourself in a position where you're only going to appeal to certain audiences long term, which might be rentals. End users, they want something a little bit more livable, more unique. Mm-hmm. And I found that the rental type of property just really kind of tends to just over an entire cycle or 2 cycles just tick along at the same level. But the rarer, more unique product, you see it moving up in value.
So I'll give you one example, an extreme example of something where a uniqueness and a rarity became a massively important factor. And this was not public at the time, but I think it's long enough since we can talk about it now. This was 10 years ago.
Perfect.
So back in 2007, I convinced one of my clients to buy a penthouse at the Fontainebleau Hotel. And I can say that now. He's basically it's the south-facing penthouse. It was 4,500 square feet. It had been on the market for 2 years. Didn't move. And we bought it, or he ended up buying it sight unseen for 6.4 million. It was marketed at like 8.5. Long and the short of it was, this is absolutely one of a kind. The building in front, or the rest of the development of the Fontainebleau was taking place. So it was another year of fixing up the space which was happening that would ultimately benefit this property, even though the market was going in the opposite direction. We had somebody else come in and that really wanted it, and ended up negotiating for 6 months and buying it a year after my client for 12.5 million. And that was purely for the reason he knew this could not be replicated. This was absolutely one of a kind, and there was no way he was going to find it anywhere else. Nothing would compare to it in his mind. That was the highest sale per square foot in that year, and quite honestly, kind of proves my point when it comes to unique real estate, is that especially when it comes to you know, the higher end, the money is there. It's not like they can't afford this stuff.
Yeah, money is
the perception there has to be that it's so unique and it's worth, as I say, there's almost a finite number when it becomes this story about if you talk about the Faena, for instance. The reason why he paid so much because he felt it was, and it is one of a kind, absolutely one of a kind.
Yeah. And today we have a penthouse now, you know, 87 Park. They have a penthouse, that's the 3-level, $87 million. And people look at these numbers and they go, wow. And I know this year we've seen some record-breaking sales in Miami. We've seen some, you know, $25 million single family, $20 million condo product moving out the market. And this is a time when people would probably question, well, you know, it's unusual to see these kind of transactions happen at this, you know, this scale and this velocity. But it's kind of a representation that there's money out there. And, you know, again, Miami is a forefront city when it comes to the luxury market. It's definitely stamped itself along with New York and LA, and there's obviously a lot of attractions coming in from buyers all over the world. So, Bragi, thank you for agreeing to do this, and watch the rest of the video now to see the tour of this amazing penthouse. And as always, any questions, shoot me an email, call me, speak to us through WhatsApp or our Zoom chat in the corner of our website, and we look forward to seeing you next time.